The day of my mother's funeral was the longest day of my life. I can still feel the weight of the sky that morning, gray and heavy, pressing down as if it knew the sorrow that our family carried. People I had not seen in years came and went, offering condolences, shaking hands, hugging me and my siblings. But their words felt hollow, like distant echoes against the cavern of grief that had opened up inside me. My mother had been the heart of our family, the glue that held us together, and now, with her gone, everything felt fragile and unfinished. I tried to stand tall for my father, for my siblings, for anyone who looked at me with sympathy in their eyes, but inside, I felt broken, unsteady, like a ship lost at sea without a compass. After the burial, most people had left. Friends and relatives drifted away, leaving a heavy silence in the house that had once been filled with laughter and conversation. I remember sitting in the living room, staring at the photograph of my mother on the mantelpiece, her eyes smiling, her face so familiar yet impossible to touch anymore. My father had been quiet all day, reserved, composed on the outside, but I knew he was grieving in his own way. I had seen that man cry once, decades ago when I was a child, and I knew he had his own way of processing loss. But that day, he seemed different, distracted, almost haunted, like some memory or truth was clawing at the back of his mind. It was late in the afternoon when he finally called me into his study. The room smelled faintly of old books and leather, familiar scents I had always associated with him. I could see the way he fidgeted with the pen on his desk, tapping it against the wood like a nervous heartbeat. He gestured for me to sit in the chair across from him, and I obeyed, heart pounding, wondering why he had chosen this moment to speak. For a long time, neither of us said a word. I watched him, studied his face, and finally, after what felt like hours compressed into a few minutes, he spoke. His voice was low, trembling slightly, and I knew that whatever he was about to say was important, something he had carried with him for years, maybe decades. "I should have told you this a long time ago," he began, his eyes avoiding mine. "But I didn't know how. I wanted to protect you, protect your mother, protect everyone." His hands shook, and he rubbed them together as if trying to gather courage from the warmth of his own skin. I leaned forward slightly, my mind racing with possibilities, none of them comforting. My father never revealed his feelings or secrets easily. When he spoke, it was serious, and when he hesitated, it meant the weight of what he carried was immense. I braced myself, ready to receive a truth that would change everything I thought I knew. "My mother," he said, "was not always well. She hid things even I did not know about. And some of those things involved me. There are truths about your family, about your childhood, that you've never been told. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I didn't have the courage. I wanted to wait until you were ready, until the right moment came. And now, I think the moment is here." I could feel a cold shiver run down my spine. My mother's life had always seemed ordinary to me, filled with small joys, laughter, and kindness. I had no idea there were shadows beneath the surface, secrets so profound that even my father's own words trembled with fear as he spoke them. He paused, took a deep breath, and finally met my gaze. The intensity of his eyes made me feel both apprehensive and compelled to listen. "When you were very young," he said, "your mother and I faced something we never spoke of. Something that changed the course of our lives. It involved your health, your early childhood, and a decision I made that I have regretted every day since. I need you to understand, I made that decision out of love, but also out of fear, and it has shaped the way we live together as a family." My heart was pounding so fast it felt like it would burst. What could he possibly be referring to? What secret could he have kept all these years, through every birthday, every holiday, every simple conversation, hidden in plain sight? I could hardly breathe as I waited for him to continue. "My mother," he said again, "was not the same as other people. She suffered in ways that no one could see. She kept it hidden, even from me sometimes, because she was determined to give you and your siblings a life of normalcy. But she carried burdens, dark burdens, things from her own childhood and past experiences that I only began to understand after it was too late." He rubbed his forehead, exhaling slowly, and for a moment, I wondered if I should ask him to stop, if the weight of this revelation would crush me. But something inside me demanded that I know. I had lived my life believing I knew my family, believing I understood the people I loved most. Now I realized I knew nothing at all. And when you were a baby, he continued, his voice breaking, there was a complication, something medical that could have changed everything. Your mother and I made a choice that, at the time, we thought was best. It wasn't easy. It wasn't simple. We hid it from everyone, even your siblings, because we feared the judgment, feared the consequences. I have carried that secret with me every day, and your mother carried it with her until the very end. I never told you because I thought you wouldn't understand, because I wanted you to have a life unburdened by the mistakes and struggles of the past. My mind was spinning. I wanted to ask him to clarify, but I also feared the full truth would hurt too much. Yet the intensity in his eyes, the raw honesty, compelled me to listen, to accept whatever revelation he was about to deliver. You see, he said, you were not entirely what you seemed to be in those early years. There were risks, medical risks, things about your birth and early development that your mother and I had to manage in secret. We did what we thought was right, what we thought would protect you and give you the best chance at life. But it came at a cost we never shared, a burden we never spoke of aloud. He paused, letting the words sink in, his hands trembling as if the act of speaking them was a release he had waited decades to experience. I felt my chest tighten, my throat dry. What could this secret possibly mean? My life, my identity, my entire sense of family seemed to be shifting under my feet. Finally, he spoke the words that would change everything. You were born in a situation that could have ended badly, but your mother fought for you, and so did I. There was a choice we made, a decision that saved your life but required secrecy, required discretion. And now, after her passing, I feel you need to know the truth. You were adopted, not by strangers, but through a private arrangement your mother and I made with a family who could not care for you at that time. We chose to keep it hidden, to raise you as our own because we loved you. I never told you because I wanted you to have the life we thought you deserved, but now you have the right to know who you are, where you came from, and the truth about your beginnings. I sat in stunned silence. My mind was a whirlwind of confusion, disbelief, and a strange sense of relief. My entire life, every memory, every moment I had assumed was ordinary, now carried layers of complexity I had never imagined. My parents had lived a lie in order to protect me, to shield me from truths too heavy for a child to bear. I could feel tears pricking my eyes, a mixture of sorrow, gratitude, and overwhelming awe at the sacrifices they had made. He looked at me, eyes glistening, and said, I wanted you to know this after your mother passed because I couldn't bear the thought of keeping it from you any longer. You deserve the truth, and I hope that understanding it will help you see how much we loved you, even through the challenges and the secrecy. I nodded slowly, my emotions churning. I realized that the grief I had felt at losing my mother was now interwoven with this revelation, a bittersweet realization that the woman I had loved so deeply had carried untold burdens, and I had been unknowingly part of a story far more intricate than I could have imagined. For hours, we talked. My father recounted stories I had never heard, moments of fear, hope, and love intertwined in ways that painted my mother not just as the woman I knew, but as a hero of quiet, enduring strength. I asked questions, each answer revealing more about the depth of their commitment, the courage it had taken to protect me, and the love that had underpinned every decision. My perspective shifted, not just on my parents, but on my own life. I began to understand that secrets, even heavy ones, could be acts of love, that the complexity of human decisions often lies beneath the surface of what we see. As the evening fell, and shadows stretched long across the room, I felt a strange sense of closure, even amidst the grief. I had lost my mother, yes, but in the revelation of this secret, I had gained a new understanding of who she was, of who my father was, and ultimately, of who I was. Life had unfolded in ways I could never have predicted, and yet, the love that had guided it remained constant, unseen but unbroken. That night, I sat alone by my mother's photograph again, but this time, I did not feel the same emptiness. Instead, I felt a connection, a thread that tied past, present, and future together. I understood the sacrifices, the quiet heroism, and the depth of love that had shaped my life from the very beginning. And as I whispered a silent thank you to my mother, I knew that even in her absence, her strength, courage, and the secrets she kept out of love would continue to guide me, shaping the person I had become and the life I would lead. It was a truth that changed everything, and yet, in that change, I found not only the weight of loss but the enduring presence of love, the depth of family, and the quiet power of secrets held for the right reasons. My father's confession, his courage to finally speak, had given me a gift I could never have anticipated, a deeper understanding of life, of love, and of the unspoken bonds that define us. And in that understanding, I discovered a sense of peace, fragile but profound, knowing that my mother's legacy was not just in memories, but in the truth she entrusted to the man I called my father, and to me, the child she fought to protect above all else.